Why do Formula One drivers not use the karting line when they're on slicks and it starts to rain? Monaco Grand Prix in the books. It was uneventful until there were events.
Yes.
Which were the rain, but only in a few corners. So it made things very tricky before drivers came in for tire changes and all of that stuff. The question I have for you, as team principal, national champion, you've been behind the wheel, you know, you've done this thing for a long time. Why do Formula One drivers not use the karting line when they're on slicks and it starts to rain? Legit question.
It is a legit question.
And give the theory, because I'm not sure everybody knows what I'm talking about here.
So in karting, or with a lot of the series that run in the or cars that run in the wet, we avoid the dry line. So what happens as we're driving around, you hear it in the races, the rubber gets put down onto the track. So there's rubber that's laid into the track, which gives us all the grip in the world in the summer. On a thick day, you have so much more grip around the track. As soon as it starts to rain, with water getting into that rubber, it starts pulling all the oils and everything out of that rubber, as well as your tire. When it fills in that rubber onto the track, it fills it in and makes it super, super smooth.
So there's no abrasion left in the track
anymore. And then your tire being a slick that is rubber, and then a little bit of rubber on the track, and you put a little bit of water in between there. Rubber and rubber don't like each other.
It's the equivalent to ice.
It is. Literally
is the equivalent
like
of ice.
You can go into a corner and crank the wheel like 180 degrees
just
and
plow
it just
straight ahead.
So then, you know, what we usually do is avoid the rubber and drive right around the outside of the rubber, or drive right underneath the rubber to stay away from the slippery parts of it. What you can see it in some of the races that they do kind of avoid the rubber, but you can see, because they have so much of, they're not only dependent on, I guess, tire grip. They also have aero grip, so they can depend on the aero grip to overpower the loss of tire grip.
Right.
So that's kind of why they don't go on to the outside. But if you look at it, they do drive a little bit of a tighter line, or they do drive a little bit of a wider line around the track. Right. It's not like us where we're like completely right around the outside,
or just
like
smashing your cart on the curb.
Exactly. So they just have a lot more mechanical grip. Well, sorry, aero grip. Because the mechanical grip isn't there, they still have a lot more wings to kind of plant that car to the ground with the the bottom the diffuser on the rear of the car, or the flat floors that they have that create so much more grip, and it sucks them down to the ground. But you can see in Monaco, when you don't have a high-speed track like that they can depend on the aero to give them the grip. They're driving on the dry line and they have no grip. They're just going straight. So I think it was one of those things where it's like the drivers just needed to clue in and be like, hey, I gotta go back to my karting. Yeah, my low speed. They have to go back to low speed racing again, right?
Yeah.
Where they have to go back to their karting days or their beginner formula days where they don't have a lot of aero grip.
Right.
And they're avoiding those lines to drive around the outside.
And I guess for some of those guys, they've been, minimum 10 years removed from that.
Yeah,
minimum.
Exactly. So just
you look at a guy like Fernando.
Yeah.
That's what, 35 years removed from that,
Exactly.
It was just interesting for me to watch, because I was watching it, and what I will say is this, while I don't know, who am I to critique their lines, but I was just curious, because, and I understand, it's not a very wide track, and it's ping pong as it is, right? But just a wider line would probably have gotten them through the corner.
Yeah.
The issue I was seeing with most of them was getting the power down.
Yes.
Because there's so much power.
Yeah.
And through those slick sections, it's just almost impossible. Like we saw Max just kind of bounce through, and luckily it just kind of worked out for him. And when you see Max doing it, they're all great drivers, but I think Max is on top of the game right now.
You also saw guys come out of the corner once it was like completely wet. Like it was a downpour. They come out of the corner and they'd roll to the inside of the track and then get on power.
Right.
Because they were off the rubber at that point.
Yes.
So now they can put the power down. But the guys that were staying on the rubber were just like, all over the back end, right?
It was interesting to see. And, it was one of those things where we never really get to see it that much.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, the rain is coming down in certain sections, but you don't necessarily need a full wet or an intermediate tire to get around the track.
Yeah.
So to watch these guys kind of tiptoe these boats around in Monaco,
like
some guys they were coming to a dead stop.
They were. They literally were.
And I was like, go around the outside. Just go around the outside.
Just try it. Just try
No,
it.
but that's interesting. If you would like to learn a little bit more about the karting line, the wet line, the race line, maybe even jump in a car, be sure to hit up Darryl at Pro Racing Ontario and Mosport Karting Center. It was a great conversation to have. Once again, it's another Race Weekend Canada's F1 show.